These stories always start with people saying, "I never believed in the supernatural," or "You will never believe this, but what you are about to hear is my experience." This took place in a small town located in Washington. I lived in a secluded, peaceful area. There was my dad, sister, and myself living in a light brown, one-story house. We had one next-door neighbor, an older man around 60, who lived by himself. He owned the farmhouse that was located down a long straight dirt road about halfway from the main road. My best friend lived about a mile away, so it was easy for us to hang out and do what other young adults do, get into things that they really shouldn't get into. The night that changed my life was October 18th, 2014. My friend recently got broken up with and wanted me to go on a drive with him to clear his thoughts. His familiar green truck pulled into my driveway. It always smelled like his dogs that he liked taking for rides. He seemed very down, and I was quick to start joking to cheer him up. While we drove down the dirt road that connected to the main road, he asked, "Which way do you want to go? Left or right?" Taking a right would lead into the more populated part of town, while the left led toward a lot of abandoned houses and nothingness. I told him to go right into town because I knew of nothing to the left. Instead of going where I told him I'd like to go, he went left. I remember brushing it off and just going with what he wanted to do. After 10 minutes of aimlessly driving, we came across this huge house blocked off by a metal fence with a no trespassing sign. He pulled in front of the fence and told me to open up the gate so he could check out the haunted house. I didn't want to seem like I was scared, so I called his bluff. I got out and opened the gate, telling him to go on after getting back in the vehicle. His face hinted that he really didn't want to go, but he had to show me up. This was a bet I regret making. We drove down a long winding dirt road with tall grass that created what seemed to be a wall on both sides of us. Large grasshoppers and other bugs shot side to side in the glow of the headlights. Finally, we pulled up to the front of a large, run-down wooden house. The white paint was molded and chipped off. Windows were broken, and a ripped-up screen door was uselessly hanging before the carved-up wooden one. He left his headlights on as we both got out of the truck and started walking towards the front porch. I remember my heart racing and having this feeling like someone was watching me. I ignored it and kept my poker face on. I reached for the door handle and slowly opened the door. The headlights barely illuminated a path for us to see, so we took out our phones and used the flashlights we had on them. It only took a minute for us to become uneasy enough to want to leave. We got as far as 3 steps into the house before both our phones shut off at the exact same time. At this point, it was pitch black except for the little bit of light we still had from the truck. We both ran back to the truck and jumped in, shutting and locking the doors. The truck refused to start and the headlights went out. It was not making a sound, although he was desperately turning the key in the ignition. After he stopped, we both looked in front of us and saw a figure that was darker than the night itself. It looked like it was kind of walking and crawling at the same time. Seeing this thing creep closer to us only increased his frantic key turning. Finally, I heard some sputtering and the truck started. We looked up. There was nothing there. As he sped out of there, he yelled, "Did you see her?" I had no idea what he was talking about, because I didn't notice a girl, just a dark figure which I assumed was the reason he was as scared as I was. The entire ride home he was crying and just kept repeating, "Her! Did you see her?" He dropped me off at my house without saying bye, just repeating those same words. That night, I didn't get any sleep, and as soon as the morning came, I wanted to see how my friend was doing. I called him, but there was no answer. After a few failed attempts to reach him, I called his mom. She answered the phone, cheerful as can be, and I tried sparking a conversation with her before asking about her son. Before I could ask, she said, "So what are you two doing right now?" I asked, "Us two?" She said, "My son, you know, the one who slept over at your place last night?" I was confused and went along with it so he wouldn't get in any trouble with his mom. Almost 2 years later, we still have not heard from him. The police said his truck was at an abandoned house down the road from where I used to live. The same abandoned house we went to visit that night. It's crazy how one night can change everything for you. There are so many unanswered questions, not knowing what happened to someone you considered family. The last thing that someone says to you before they disappear really puts an impression on you. I just don't understand why the last thing he said to me was, "Her. Did you see her?"